536 AD. Welcome to 536 AD, where the world decided it was going to hit pause on civilization for a while. The year kicked off with a mysterious fog that blanketed much of the earth. No, it wasn't smog from a factory. This fog was a volcanic cooling effect that triggered global temperatures to drop. Good times ahead, right? It was like the ultimate nature's revenge. Crop failures, famines, and diseases. Oh, and this is the year that set off the beginning of a global chill that lasted for several years. Talk about a cold reception. 536 AD marked the beginning of a period called the Late Antique Little Ice Age, a time of dramatic climate change. The mysterious fog came from a volcanic eruption, possibly from Mount Krakatoa or another massive eruption, which released ash into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun. This cooling event led to crop failures across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia, causing widespread famine and hunger. People didn't just have to deal with bad weather, they also had to contend with the spread of plagues. Famine, plague, cold. That's a trifecta of disaster if I've ever seen one. 1347 AD. Welcome to 1347 AD, the year the Black Death decided to make itself really known. Forget a simple cold or the flu. This was the ultimate pandemic. The Black Death didn't just spread through Europe. It raced through it like it was a speed run in a video game. The result? A death toll in the millions. Now that's what I call a game changer. The Black Death, caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, spread rapidly across Europe, Asia, and North Africa, killing an estimated 1/3 to 1/2 of Europe's population in just a few years. The disease was spread by fleas on rats, and its symptoms were gruesome: swollen lymph nodes, fever, and death within days. The death toll was staggering, and it reshaped Europe's social, economic, and political landscapes. Imagine a world where almost half the population disappears in a blink. 1453 AD. 1453 AD, the year when Constantinople fell and the Byzantine Empire went from here to gone in the blink of an eye. This wasn't just another battle, this was the ultimate empire collapse, shaking the world's power dynamics like an earthquake. The Ottomans, led by Mehmed II, stormed through the city's walls and game over for the Byzantine Empire. The fall of Constantinople marked the end of the Byzantine Empire and a major shift in European and Middle Eastern politics. After weeks of siege, the Ottomans broke through Constantinople's walls on May 29, 1453, changing the course of history. The city, once the heart of Eastern Christianity, was taken by the Ottoman Empire, marking a significant expansion of Muslim power in Europe. This event also paved the way for the Renaissance and the Age of Exploration as trade routes shifted and European nations sought new paths to the east. 1517 CE, 1517 AD, when Martin Luther had enough of the church's nonsense and decided, you know what? I'm going to post a list of 95 things wrong with this place. If this was a modern scenario, it would be like an influencer dropping the ultimate expose on the church's bad practices. Spoiler alert, this did not go over well. In 1517, Martin Luther, a German monk, posted his 95 Theses on the door of the castle church in Wittenberg, challenging the Catholic Church's practices, especially the sale of indulgences. This act is considered the start of the Protestant Reformation, which led to a major split within Christianity, challenging the authority of the Pope and spreading ideas that eventually led to the creation of Protestant denominations. Luther's actions sparked intense debates, political upheaval, and even wars over religion for centuries to come. 1600 AD, a year when the world was really starting to feel the chill, both literally and figuratively. The Little Ice Age had reached its peak, and Europe was freezing, crops were failing, famines were everywhere, and the entire continent seemed to be shivering in fear. And it wasn't just the cold that people had to worry about. Europe was also struggling with wars, political instability, and religious tensions. So who wouldn't want to live in this lovely era? 1600 AD is widely regarded as one of the coldest years of the Little Ice Age, a period of cooler global temperatures that caused significant disruptions in Europe. The year marked some of the most extreme weather conditions of the period, with harvests failing, food shortages, and widespread famine across the continent. It was a time when survival itself was an everyday challenge. While Europe was busy freezing, political tensions were also at a boiling point. The Protestant Reformation had divided Christianity, and Catholic and Protestant forces were engaged in brutal conflicts like the 30 Years' War, which would devastate Europe in the coming decades. Not only did the cold bite at the heels of the common folk, but the political Cold War between monarchs, religious groups, and expanding empires led to a brewing storm of conflict. So, while people were struggling to stay warm, they were also struggling with shifting alliances, religious persecution, and the lingering effects of medieval politics. A real great time to be alive, right? 1683 AD. 1683 AD, the year when the Ottoman Empire almost had it all, until they didn't. Imagine being an empire on the verge of sweeping through Europe, only to be stopped at the gates of Vienna. The Ottoman forces, led by Suleiman the Magnificent's successors, were on a mission, and Vienna was their target. But in one of the most dramatic military standoffs of the century, the Ottomans were defeated, and Europe was saved, at least for a while. But, oops, big things were at stake here. In 1683, the Ottoman Empire's siege of Vienna marked the high point of their expansion into Europe. The city, the capital of the Holy Roman Empire, was the last major Christian stronghold standing in the path of the Ottomans. In a move to push further into Europe, the Ottomans laid siege to Vienna, but the defenders, with help from a coalition of European forces, including Poland, led by King John III Sobieski, mounted a counterattack that pushed the Ottomans back. The Battle of Vienna became a turning point in the Ottoman Empire's expansion into Europe. The defeat of the Ottomans was a significant moment in European history, not just for the military victory, but for its symbolic importance in halting the spread of Islamic rule into Central Europe. However, the battle didn't just change the trajectory of the Ottoman Empire, it marked the beginning of their decline. Though the Ottomans would continue to hold vast territories for a while, they would never again come as close to dominating Europe as they had in 1683. 1816 AD. Welcome to 1816 AD, the year when Mother Nature decided to go all in on chaos. Imagine a summer where the sun's barely shining, crops are failing, and people are just freezing. You're thinking, maybe I'll go out and catch some rays. Oh wait, there are none to be had. This was the infamous year without a summer, and let me tell you, it was not a good look for humanity. The year 1816 became known as the year without a summer due to the massive volcanic eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia in 1815. The eruption released so much ash into the atmosphere that it caused a significant drop in global temperatures. Crops failed across the northern hemisphere, leading to widespread famine, food shortages, and economic hardship. It's estimated that in some places, the temperature dropped by as much as 3 degrees Celsius. 5 degrees Fahrenheit, which doesn't sound like much, but in terms of agriculture, it was devastating. In Europe and North America, the cold summer of 1816 led to poor harvests, which resulted in hunger, starvation, and significant social unrest. Farmers couldn't plant crops, food prices soared, and people were left scrambling for survival. The situation was so dire that it also led to major migrations of people looking for food and better conditions. Oh, and in the midst of all this, a group of writers in Switzerland, Lord Byron, Percy Bysshe Shelley, and Mary Shelley, were stuck indoors due to the miserable weather. As a result, Mary Shelley wrote her famous novel Frankenstein, proving that even in the worst years, art can find a way to thrive. 1945 AD, the year when the world saw the end of the most devastating war in history, World War II. But also the year that brought about the beginning of an entirely new kind of horror, nuclear warfare. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki changed everything. Everything. The war was over, but the consequences of those bombings would ripple through history in ways that no one could have imagined at the time. What happened here wasn't just a military victory, it was a catalyst for a new era of fear, uncertainty, and destruction. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan, instantly killing an estimated 70,000 to 80,000 people. 3 days later, on August 9th, a second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki, killing an additional 40,000 people. These bombings marked the end of World War II, as Japan announced its surrender soon after, but they also ushered in the terrifying era of nuclear warfare. The use of atomic bombs, unlike anything the world had ever seen, immediately raised ethical and moral questions. The destruction was unimaginable. Cities were flattened, people vaporized by the intense heat, and radiation sickness decimated survivors. The bombings not only ended the war, but also marked the beginning of the Cold War, a global standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union, both of whom now had nuclear weapons. This nuclear arms race dominated global politics for decades, and the specter of nuclear war would hang over the world for generations. Hiroshima and Nagasaki became symbols of the devastating potential of nuclear weapons, but they also represented the painful truth of war and the cost of victory in a world that had forever changed. 2020 AD. 2020 AD, the year the world hit pause, and no one knew when the play button would be hit again. The COVID-19 pandemic came out of nowhere and transformed every aspect of life. You think your 2020 was tough because of social distancing and not seeing your friends for a few months. Try a global lockdown that dragged on for over a year, with economic downturns, political upheaval, and a constant barrage of confusing news updates. If 2020 were a movie, it'd be a thriller, but no one would want to watch it again. The COVID-19 pandemic, caused by the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2, started in late 2019 but exploded globally in 2020, causing a health crisis on an unimaginable scale.